Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel, founder of a revolutionary medical sales training and mentorship program called the Medical Sales Career Builder, and I'm also host of the Medical Sales Podcast. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire world. It doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing and diagnostic lab, you name it, you will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 10% performer within your role, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. And remember, I am a medical sales expert sharing my own opinion about this amazing industry and how it can change your life. Okay, so let's get into it then. So Endo, a lot of people are learning, what does it mean to have an elective space? What does it mean to not even be in the hospital or any OR room? What does it mean to have trauma? Talk to us about Endo. Is it elective? How does it work? What's being sold? Go ahead.
Yeah, and in my space in particular, it's all elective. So I call on outpatient surgery centers. So I have 10 people on my team. I cover 8 states in the Southeast. And so we are all outpatient elective-based GI procedures. Now, there are occasions with our hospital counterparts where, something comes up, you have jaundice, you have some kind of issue where you need to go in for an emergency GI case, or there's some kind of bleeding. Those would be more urgent cases, more hospital-based cases. Mine are the procedures that we cover are all elective.
Okay. Now, patient impact is so critical, right? And every different type of medical sales has a different type of patient impact.
Yes.
In the endoscopy space, do you get to know what happens to the patient? Is it more so you're removed, but you get to learn through the provider or through the physician? Talk to us.
Yeah, we learn post procedure through the provider primarily. Most of these cases are very predictable. So the outcome is usually a very, very good outcome and a favorable outcome. However, there are those cases where you text the doctor and say, hey, checking in on that case from the other day, how'd that patient end up? And I think that's just a good tip for whatever industry you're in, whether you're in ortho, neuro, spine, following up with your surgeon or GI and just say, hey, how'd that case go? Checking on that patient is a feather in a cap.
Awesome. So, I love asking this question because you just made a bold claim, sir. Okay. Mm-hmm. You just said that you have the best space and you even called out the other ones, which is all fair.
Yeah, I've done it.
What's the moment where, take us back to that procedure or what was happening? Paint the picture where you said, okay, this is it. This is the coolest space.
Yeah. What I love about GI is unlike these orthopedic procedures, these neuro procedures where you wake up at 4 a.m., you drive an hour, you get there, you get the trays ready. The doctor shows up 2 hours late. You're sitting in a freezing cold OR for 2 hours, right? The real talk. This is a very predictable 15 to 30 minute procedure, right? Where, if cases start at 7 a.m., they're starting at 7 a.m. You can walk into a procedure that's not, people aren't overly tense. It's, hey, we've been here before. We know what we're doing here. This is not highly urgent. And it is a more relaxed environment to where you can think, you can learn, you can ask very thought-provoking questions, and it's a worry-free zone for the most part.
I like it. it.
Yeah.
What's the sales cycle for endoscopy sales?
It depends, right? We sell everything. We sell primarily disposables or single-use items. In our space, we do sell some capital. And so it depends on what items you're selling. We sell services and solutions as well. So it depends on what you sell, but they are, and again, even within the disposable items, you might sell a higher ticket disposable that takes 6 to 12 months, and you might sell one that's a single call close. And so it's hard for me to give you an exact example.
Sure.
I would say 2 to 3 months probably is a fair cycle.
Okay, that's fair. And then when it comes to the money, people are starting to realize it's fascinating how educated the public has become about what medical sales is. Because I remember 10 years ago, it was like the secret industry. Now you got kids coming out of college giving you a dissertation on what it means to be in spine sales. But what's the money range for someone that wants endoscopy from the beginning of the career to max it out and be top 10%?
That's a great question. I think fair, if you're coming in as a associate sales rep in that range, just sub 6-figure range, probably to, you can kind of double that, 2.5x that, for those, higher end users, not higher end users, but those individuals. So I think that's a fair range.
Nice. So you're really well endoscopy. Makes sense why it's one of the best spaces. You got the time, you're quick in and out, your time is valued, and you can get compensated well where you're making a whole bunch of patient impact.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the main thing. It's all about really, and this, being as successful as you are. I mean, when you put the patient first, that's everything. And everything flows from that if you do have that patient first mindset.
Love it. So what is the team buildup of an endoscopy team? Is it a solo rep with an associate? Mm-hmm. Is it a clinical specialist, associate, and a solo rep? How does it all work?
Yeah. So let's break our division into two different divisions. So we've got our hospital core team that really they founded the company, right? That our company was built off our hospital reps. So we have those hospital reps. They usually have an associate divided between 2 or 3 different reps. And then the ambulatory surgery center team, or ASC team, that I lead and cover, we primarily just have territory managers with no direct associate at this time. So they have a defined geography. I have 2 in Atlanta, I have an east and a west, and no associate. So that's a good way of describing it.
Very cool. So ASCs, is that relatively new, the team that's specifically on ASCs, or has that been around for a while?
It's funny. Boston Scientific, we've been kind of a leader in the space where we saw procedure volume going there years ago. And I was part of an acquisition, a small company called EndoChoice. And sure. I was a rep at that time, and we came over with the acquisition. And at that time, 7 years ago, we started this brand new channel dedicated to serving our ASC customers, because we know their needs are different. We know price sensitivity is higher in ASCs versus hospitals. Mm-hmm. And so what was cool was I got to come in at the founding level of this new channel and be a part of this great organization.
Yeah, I remember right before COVID, ASCs just seemed to be exploding. And so many companies were creating ASC specific dedicated teams. And so now it's to hear that it's just so commonplace.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Stryker and our organization were the 2 that really got on it early. We both saw the market moving to outpatient, and I gotta give both organizations credit.
That's fantastic. So let's go back. Let's find out what and how you had all the experience to finally conclude on endo and be the rock star that you are. So going back to college.
Yeah.
Senior year, are we thinking, I'm about to be the best rep you've ever seen? Or are we clueless and we're doing something else?
Man, being honest with you, senior year of college, I knew nothing of what I wanted to do with my life. And I'm one of those few that my whole life, my parents, I think they're like, what are we going to do with Jon? We don't know what to do with him. Like, my parents had no idea how to guide me. And at that time, my brother and I were starting an entrepreneurial venture. We started a footwear manufacturing company. So my senior year of college, we raised capital. Okay. And we started manufacturing shoes in East Asia. And we're selling to, the first 4 or 5 years of my career, we were selling private label and also our own brand shoes across the US, which was crazy.
Wow. So, tell us a little bit more, what kind of shoes were these?
Yeah. So like sandals, boat shoes, kind of camp shoes, more of an outdoor, almost like a Bass Pro type feel and look. Okay. So we were selling that type of product, and we had a good run, and talk about it a little bit in Relentless Sales, but we failed ultimately, and, made every mistake in the book, 2 young guys. And luckily we paid back most of our investment, initially to our investors, and did the best we could there. But we learned a lot, and transferred that into becoming an associate with Stryker after 5 years. And
what division?
So navigation, so computer assisted surgery. Yeah.
So hold on. Why that? You meet someone, you went to a doctor's office, you had friends. What inspired you? You had your entrepreneurial experience, and then you said, you know what, I'm going to switch gears. What led you in that direction?
It's funny, 2 things. One, I knew a guy walking around in scrubs. I thought he was a physician, and he was with J&J, and I had a conversation with him. And then another mentor of mine named John Riley, he sat me down and he's like, dude, you need to get into medical device, and you need to get into selling capital. Gotcha. And those were the 2 directives he gave me, and he was very successful. And I applied to a company called Stryker, went through that whole process. And I remember your audience will probably appreciate this. I remember being on a field ride with one of the reps and not knowing where I stood, and said, I looked at him, and I remember being bold afterwards. Like, I can't believe I said that to him. I said, hey man, I'm going to break in, whether it's with you guys or not. I was like, I hope it's with you guys. I really want to work with you. I really want to learn from you. And then afterwards, like, I can't believe I just said that to him. But he told me later that's why he pushed me along to his hiring manager to give me the nod.
Install a commitment early on. Yeah. So computer assisted. So lightly tell us about that, and then tell us about why you transitioned out of that, and what was your next type of medical stuff.
Absolutely. Great company, awesome company, nothing but respect there. It's a big picture GPS for the anatomy. So little trackers with sub-millimeter accuracy. And so we put these little trackers, if it was a spine procedure, on a vertebrae. And then we brought in this big computer with wheels with a camera on it. And this boom looked down, and it could tell the physicians where to place their pedicle screws, right? Or for knees and hips, how to manipulate the cut, the distal femoral cut, or what have you. So basically, it's just GPS in its simplest form, GPS for the anatomy. And it was a very good initial job for me as an associate. But what I found out quickly was I came in and had a really good rep that I worked under. He was tenured, about 16 years in the territory, but I was only about 8 months in, and they brought in another rep to backfill him. So I saw the writing on the wall from that perspective. I wanted to stay in Atlanta, and I knew there wasn't any more room for me in that particular division. And so guy in my church came up to me. He's like, dude, you need to check out this small company called EndoChoice. And the rest is history. That was rookie of the year there, rep of the year. And then I had the best 2 years combined at EndoChoice, and that allowed me to come over to Boston.
Wow. That's quite the experience. So I still want to know, as all this is happening, when did it even occur to you to start to write a book? Was it an EndoChoice? Was it just 4 years ago? When did you say, I'm going to at least start writing some of these things down, and I'm going to put this into a book eventually?
Yeah. And in 2019 range is where, I'm kind of a nerd, just like you have books. I have a whole closet full of books right over here. It's shut.
I'm a proud nerd. Yes, I am.
Yeah. I wasn't calling you a nerd. I was saying I'm a book nerd. But man, I'm with you, man. I try to consume everything I can. When we failed our company, I committed to myself, I'm never going to fail again. So this sting of failure to me was like, of course I'm going to pick up a $20 book to learn everything I can about sales, and it's just trickled. And so I think that my dad being an author, writing a book, between those two things and getting my thoughts on paper was very therapeutic. And so after a couple of years writing, a good friend of mine named Joe came along. It's like, dude, you need to tell yourself you're writing a book. This is good stuff. He's like, yes, you have a 3rd, 4th grade writing level. That's okay. Most salespeople will appreciate that. And encouraged me to kind of get it done. And so didn't launch until the end of last year, 2023.
Wow. This is very recent. What type of author is your father?
So my dad is a communicator. He is actually a Presbyterian minister of all things down in Orlando. And so he's, I would say, religious author, but wrote a father-son book called Like Father, Like Son, that's really cool. Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. So why should everybody listening right now, whether they want to get into medical sales, whether they're in medical sales, or whether they're leading the way, or even a physician, why should they start to read your book and get into it?
Yeah, I break down what I think are the 3 most important elements: the skills, the mentality, and faith. That's a subtitle of the book, need to be great in sales. And so it's relentless sales. If nothing else about the book, it's that relentless mentality that you need to be successful in whatever you choose to do with your career. So I break down the last 15 years of successes and failures I've had, from failing that small business venture to becoming rep of the year, president's club, leading teams to victory. I think I give all the tips and tricks of that book. And, chapter 6, I talk about sales process. I talk about learning how to run a territory like a professional. And I've just consumed books just like you have for the last 20 years. And I consolidate what I think makes the most sense.
I love it. So let's dig in. So if you can go back to that experience, the entrepreneurial one, what would you say your top 3 learnings from that experience were?
Yeah. The one that jumps out to me right away is overlapping job responsibilities. There
Hmm.
were things that my brother, who is our CEO, a couple years older than me, he and I would overlap where honestly, as a sales guy, I should have got in a van and started driving and not turned off my focus from sales. I was distracted from, you know, operations work, CEO work, wasting my time with websites. There's so many things that took my focus off what it needed to be. And so I would start with not overlapping your job responsibilities. Our
I
job
like
in
that.
sales is
I
to
like that.
sell. We should just sell. So that's one.
I like that. That's number one. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one. There were so many lessons that we learned. I'm trying to think, that's the one that jumped out initially to me. Let me see if I can give you a couple other ones here on the fly. You know, I think fear. I talk about that in my book, Conquering Fear, Chapter 9. There were so many
Sure.
times where I was fearful of calling a buyer. I should have done way more work with the big accounts. The 80-20 rule is real in every industry. And so I should have been working closer with Bass Pro, Cabela's, Gander Mountain, you name
Sure.
it,
Sure.
were some of those big buyers that I was hesitant. And honestly, as a young guy out of college, I didn't know what I was doing. And so don't,
So you would say the fear that you experienced was just the not knowing how to do it, and the fear of looking silly, or the fear of doing it wrong, or what was propagating that fear?
I think all of the above. I think all of the above. I think self-doubt too. When you're trying to do something, I think a lot of times in sales, we are too hesitant. We're too gun shy, if you will, and we need to be more aggressive. Worst comes to worst, you make a friend through that engagement if you
Sure.
approach it the right way.
Sure.
So don't be afraid, as baseball players say, like let the bat off your shoulder, swing. Like you're not gonna hit a home run unless you swing. And so
Right.
fear is crippling. And so that's why I talk about faith in the book a little bit, because I found that as an element to really help with fear.
Okay. And the third one? I hope you're enjoying today's episode. And I want to let you know our programs cover the entire career of a medical sales professional. From getting into the medical sales industry, to training on how to be a top performer in the medical sales industry, to masterfully navigating your career to executive level leadership. These programs are personalized and customized for your specific career and background, and trained by over 50 experts, including surgeons. Our results speak for ourselves, and we're landing positions for our candidates in less than 120 days in top medical technology companies like Stryker, Medtronic, Merck, Abbott, you name it. Would you run an Ironman race without training and a strategy? You wouldn't. So why are you trying to do the same with the medical sales position? You need training, you need a strategy, and you need to visit evolveyoursuccess.com, fill out the application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and let's get you into the position that you've always dreamed of.
I think the habits, right? Owning your morning routine. I think habits can be a big, having that consistent approach and creating the systems. There should have been more systems created that would helped us allow to have a more successful approach. Yeah.
Sure. So, what's so cool about your story, Jon, is that you did not start in medical sales. You became a success in medical sales, and now you're leading other successful individuals in coaching success.
Yeah.
Talk to us about, and I always like to do things in terms of three. So talk to us about, what are the three things that reps listening to this right now, if they want to be rock stars, if they want to be the top 10%, top 1% even, what do they absolutely have to be doing? Give us three things.
Yeah. Pre-call planning and really doing pre-call planning. Number one.
Okay, so define pre-call, define what people think it is, and define what it actually.
All right. So pre-call planning is taking anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes before your meeting the next day, making sure you're prepped with the numbers for, if you're having a numbers discussion, an economic numbers discussion, hopefully you've spent time preparing in advance that, but reviewing the numbers at least 30 minutes before the next day, knowing what cadence you want to have with that customer as you walk in there, kind of walk through that, what you think that, because it's not going to go exactly how you think it's going to go.
Never does. Never does.
But at least plan and think through what you know about the account and have your stuff together. Look at the website, figure out what's important to them. Have you looked up your customers on social media? You might find some invaluable information that will really help that either rapport building phase of that conversation go well, or you might find some commonality that you didn't know existed by not doing your research on social media. So
Fantastic.
look them up on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. So
Okay.
pre-call plan, I do think that I talk about zoning, geographically zoning your territory and really being tight. I have like a template on my website to help reps with zoning their territory. And I think that's so critical, especially if you have a big geographical area that you cover, clumping your accounts in certain geography. So if you know you have 5 accounts in the northeast corner of the state that you cover, accounts, key contacts, their rolling 12 sales versus prior, understanding all the account information outside of a CRM.
So are you saying, okay, so that sounds like 2 different things. Are you saying routing and knowing your customer, or are you speaking to something else completely?
Yeah, so it's not routing. What it is a geographic clumping of your account with all the pertinent information you need. So I have an Excel, picture an Excel document I can send you
Sure.
one after this, but
Yeah.
picture, 5, all the accounts you can hit in one day, basically,
Okay.
clumped together in a certain geography. So north, south, central, you name it, break them out into where you can hit them all in one day and have the important information. Because what I teach a lot of my reps is as you're calling on one zone, why not prep your next 2 weeks out in advance? If you know you're going to be in the northeast corner of your account or in a different state, plan ahead. And as you're driving, use that time wisely. And so I call it geographic zoning of your territory.
Yeah. Okay. So pre-call planning, geographic zoning. What's the third?
Attack list. You've got to have a weekly attack list. So when your feet hit the floor Monday morning, you have to act like an invader versus on the defense, right?
Ooh, I like it.
Offense is always better than defense in my mind. So, I don't care if my team does their prep Friday and they're carving out that time before the end of the day on Friday, or they're doing it Sunday night. But before they hit the ground running on Monday, I want to make sure they're tight, and I want them to know what their top 5 opportunities that week that they can drive new revenue from. So teaching that discipline of consistently getting your attack list, and then they should really prioritize those best opportunity to last, right? If you can, it's just like a snowball. If you can get one deal moving early in the week, that gives you confidence for the second, third opportunities.
I love it. Now, in the same vein, there are things that not necessarily negative things that people do, but just things that are pitfalls for sales reps that they should be very mindful of. What 3 things would you say are just common pitfalls that reps fall into that gets in the way of becoming that top performer, that top 10 or 1%?
Yeah, I talk about this too, and I'm trying to think which chapter I talk about in my book. I'm having a blank, but basically reps that call just to vent about whatever that waste your time throughout the day, don't get caught up in the gossip game with your fellow reps that just want to vent. I saw a pattern with one of the organizations I used to work for where come 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, reps would start calling each other and just venting. And you look down at your phone, you're like, dude, you just wasted 45 minutes of my time just venting, adding no value. And so what I would do is, unless I knew a teammate was in an important case or something, like I would screen calls until 4 o'clock.
Wow.
Think about
you did allow for venting, but only after 4.
Yeah, right. When the day's almost over, I'll allow a little bit of venting, right, to collaborate. Yeah. But think about it, right? You've been there, Samuel. I mean, think about all the time wasted from teammates that aren't helping you drive what you need to do in your territory, and they just want to vent. So be careful who you associate with, and be careful how you spend your time. Time's so precious.
And to add to that, for me, it's you got to stay solution oriented. I mean, if you got to vent, you're right. Don't do it during the busiest time of the day when you can actually be getting things done. Save it. But more importantly, get that out and then go right to the solutions. How do we come up with a solution? Solution. So I get that. All right.
All right.
Here's another one.
Number 2, social media. While it's a very good tool, man, it is so dangerous. You could waste a lot of time scrolling on social media, right? So use it kind of like a Navy SEAL. Get in, get out, do what you need to, and don't get caught up in the wheel.
Let's stop there for just a moment. I would say that COVID kind of kicked off this, gosh, I don't even know how you call it, but kicked off this movement of how to use social media as a sales professional to do business. How to develop a brand, how to get in contact with customers you never could have before, how to do, no matter what's going on in the world, whether it be a pandemic or anything else, get access.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the sales rep utilizing social media to do business?
I think it's a valuable tool. You just have to put it in its perspective place. I mean, it doesn't beat picking up the phone and calling. It doesn't beat having really well scripted, thought through emails. It's a piece of the puzzle. I think you have to be wise with it. You can waste so much time getting sucked into the vortex that is social media, but an appropriate LinkedIn post, an appropriate, I've listened to some of your other podcasts with some other social media experts, and they're great. I think they're using it the right way. Just try not to get overly consumed with it. It's a piece of the puzzle.
So venting, mindless social media. What's the third?
Yeah. Spending their time with either their best customer, because that best customer makes them comfortable.
Oh, this is good. Please, please
and
speak on that, please.
And not, putting them in the appropriate place and going out and doing the appropriate hunting, prospecting, etc. I think a lot of times, we're emotional creatures, right? Like, it's like eating good soul food, right? Like you go into an account where they're like, John, what's up? Where you been? And they give you hugs and, you're like, you're the man, you're walking in or you're, your family, right? There's those accounts that make you feel good, but are you creating, advancing, and closing appropriate opportunities? And as my friend Mike Weinberg would say, create, advance, and close. And I think you have to just make sure you monitor. Our job is to be value creators to drive revenue for our organizations. And so spend time with your best customers. Yes, the 80-20 rule is real. 80% of your revenue does come from the top 20% of your customers, but you can't spend all your time there.
No, I love it. I love it. Let's go back to your book.
Yeah.
Who is it best for? I mean, if you had to just pick an audience,
you
would say, is it best for the beginner rep, the pre-rep, the mid-career rep, the tail end of the career rep? Who would you say that your book is designed best for?
It's funny. I've gotten messages from people at all levels and said, hey, I loved your book, right? This stood out to me. But I would say, if I could give this book to myself 15 years ago when I was just becoming a sales rep, this book kind of outlines the things that I wish I would have known 15 years ago. So if there was an ideal prospect for this book, I would say it's the early rep. And then obviously I got a huge medical device tilt. So those medical device reps are my audience.
Hey, come on. It is what it is.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. All right. I want to get into a little bit more about Jon. So Jon, what are we doing here? Are we family man? Are we solo trip, making things happen with life?
Yeah, let me show you after I clear my messages up. But
there they are.
That's life right there, man. I have a 7-year-old, 5-year-old, and a brand new little girl. So girl, boy, girl, man.
You're making things happen. Okay.
Trying.
So what is give us your personal routine then? You're waking up at what time? You're doing what to get into your day? I mean, you're an author, so you probably had good time to consider how you want to do your morning and night routines. Talk to us.
Yeah. And I actually, again, not selling a book here. I outline it in the book perfectly on what I do, but I think that 5 a.m. club is where I'm most productive. It's tough. I've gone, and now with the new baby, I've fallen off a little bit of the schedule, if I'm being completely honest. Right.
Sure.
But when I'm waking up at 5 a.m., I'm on, and, I have my water, my coffee. I'm more of an espresso person now. And, what I found is like getting on the Peloton for 30 minutes or getting in, reading some good books. For me, it's the Bible and also good business books. Those are, the Proverbs in the Bible is like chock full of wisdom. So like everything is salespeople. If you want like just a silver bullet for how to approach your day, like read a proverb a day. Like to me, it's gold, man. It's gold. It says things like, don't talk too much, right? Like, that's good advice. I need to be reminded that today, right? Listen, right? And victory comes with abundance of counselors. So like, there's a lot of good stuff in there, but I read a little bit of the Bible, and then I read some good business books, John Maxwell's books, sales books, Jeffrey Gitomer, Mike Weinberg, you name it. There's a lot of good people I get wisdoms. Do that. So either exercise before or exercise after, kind of depends on how my body's feeling. I'm
Okay.
getting up there now.
Okay.
And so, but get a little exercise in, and then I'm out the door usually by like 7:45, 8.
Okay. Okay. And how about when you take it all in? What happened? What's the night routine?
Yeah, kind of the shutdown routine is hopefully I'm back by the house by 5 p.m., 5:30, depending on how busy that day is, depending on travel. I have 8 states that I cover, so sometimes I'm getting in way later than that.
Yeah.
And so if I am home, say it's a perfect day, I'm home by 5:30. I'm trying to shelve the phone for a couple hours, trying to spend time with the family, and then, get back after it after I get them down to bed.
Got it. When you say, so get back after you've gone to bed, meaning you get back to work after you get them to bed?
Yeah, you're
What
checking.
time, what
You're
time
checking.
is that?
Yeah, so I mean, so my kids go to bed by 8 every night. They're still on the younger side.
All right.
So I'm once I get them down, I'm looking at my phone, I'm looking at my emails, and then back to that pre-call plan that we talked about, looking at my schedule for the next day. What do I need to do to get ahead of those early meetings in the morning and really stay sharp for the next day?
Fantastic. Earlier you said one of the reasons, what the best audience for your book is who you were, 15 years ago. And you literally wrote a whole book, but I'm going to ask you the question anyway.
All right.
Let's say you did go back to the beginning of being a rep. What would you tell yourself?
Number one is going to be okay. Calm down a little bit. I think some of us, like, I run hot. And so, I think that those unnecessary nights of worrying don't do you any good. So I think I would tell myself, like, keep preparing. Our one word for our team this year is excellence. Try to shoot for excellence in all we do. And that should be my goal. Aim for excellence. Try to be sharp and excellent in all you do, and success will come. Don't stress about the unimportant.
I like it. You're a leader of many now. And I'm sure there was a transitional period where you went from individual contributor to a leader and you had to adjust your perspective. For those listening that have the same sort of ambition, what would you share with them?
Yeah, again, there's different leaders like Mike Weinberg, who talks about this, not being the super rep. It is so important. So many, I think I'm fortunate during my time in medical device to have really good managers, and I had one that was really bad. And I learned more from the bad manager than I did from the good. And I promised myself when I became a manager, I would never act the way that the bad manager acted.
Wow.
And so I look at that as a blessing to have a bad manager, to where I didn't want to do that. So when I came in, I knew I was mature enough to know I need to win through my people. And that's how we win. So when you give everything to your people and pour everything into them and you make them the heroes, not yourself, you're golden. Don't be the hero.
Give us a little bit more though. What does that What does that mean? Like show us what that means.
Yeah. So for instance, I had a manager who took credit behind closed doors for a lot of stuff that me and another rep would do. And we knew because other people told us that were in that room, told us that he was taking credit for our work. That is the worst thing you can do as a leader, is to point back to yourself. So for me, any and every chance, I try to catch my team in the act of doing something good. And so we are just like sales reps should make their customers the heroes, or certain stakeholders within that account the heroes. We should make, like, my customers are my sales reps now. And so my job is really, I think leadership's redefined now. It's different than how it used to be. And we've got to make our people the heroes. So I go out of my way to try to point out where they're doing good things to my director.
Sure. What's the hardest part about being a medical sales rep?
A sales rep or sales manager?
Well, let's start with sales rep, then we're going to go to sales manager too.
All right. Cool. Sales rep, I think one of the hardest things is probably understanding where to spend your time. If I were to say, there's so much thrown at you. There's that fear of not hitting your number. That's what we talk about, like identity. Kind of when we check our identity, it helps us sell more freely. And so I think the pressure of having a number and not, for those early in their career, not having the experience of knowing where to go to win, I think that's the hardest thing. And that's why I teach the attack list. And that's why I teach the zone territory, is because I think those two things help. But yeah, that's where they get lost.
Gotcha. And then for a sales manager?
The hardest thing for a sales manager, I would say, is hiring and recruiting and developing. I think, again, going back to that bad manager mindset, a lot of managers like to hire people who aren't as good as them because they feeds an ego of being able to tell them what to do.
Wow, that's deep. Okay.
But I think what I've really tried to do is hire people who are way better than me. And you look at my team and I have people, they're like, who's the boss here? Like, because my team is stacked. And so that's something I'm very, very proud of, is I want people who are smarter, better, stronger, and every category than me. And that's just something I've learned over time, is like, man, hire as good as you can, because it'll help you as a manager.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, there's one more thing I want to address, and do your best.
All right.
So being a medical sales rep, you're by yourself a lot. You know, a lot of times you're strictly solo and you're out in the territory. And like you said earlier, trying to figure out where you're supposed to be. Would you agree that there are times when you just get in your own head and you kind of, I don't know, for lack of a better way of saying it, come up with these self-defeating thoughts that prevent you from being at your best as you're seeing customers?
Absolutely.
For those reps listening, what are some things that maybe you've done or you've seen your reps do that has done a great job thwarting those thoughts, or just confronting them and removing them, you know, getting around that?
So chapter 1 of my book is mentors. And who starts a sales book out with mentors, right? This guy, you know? And so it's because I learned, like, there's a reason, like, people ahead of us can help us prevent self-defeating actions and thoughts and stuff like that. So if you don't have a big network, find one person who's ahead of you in your career and reach out to them and start learning from people who are 2-3 stages ahead of you. I'm telling you, that's one of the biggest. I saw some video on social media of this little kid trying to learn how to surf.
Yeah.
This guy came up right next to him on his knees and helped the little kid. He stood him up on the surfboard.
Yeah.
And the instructor was on his knees and just held the little guy, and he just skid down the wave, right? And that's what mentors are to us, is they are like that guy helping us learn to surf, coming right next to us, lifting us up on the surfboard and propelling us faster. So that's one of a few things I would recommend.
What's another?
Well, I think chapter 2, I talked about identity, right? Understanding who we are. Like, a lot of times those self-defeating thoughts come from poor identity and lack of confidence. And so start building our self-talk, start checking your self-talk. I think there's a lot of reps who are really, really good, but have negative thinking and speak negatively to themselves. So as crazy as that may sound, work on affirmations that are positive, right? So you can start the day off on a right foot, and you catch yourself when you're saying something negative. I'm as hard as they get on myself.
Yeah.
And sounds like you can certainly relate, and you are too, Samuel. Like, we can be our biggest critic, can't we?
Those are the facts. You know, you've mentioned identity a couple times.
Yeah.
Give us a little bit more. When you say identity, what are you talking about exactly?
Yeah, good question. And that can mean some different things to different people. But there was a time when I went from Stryker 2.5 years as an associate. So I went from failed venture, right? Called 5 years of starting entrepreneurial venture, to 2.5 years as an associate for Stryker, which, if you know much about Stryker, that's not an easy gig, right?
Right.
There's days where you're called and you're like, hey, I need you in Miami the next day at 7 a.m. and I'm in Atlanta. And, you know, you're like, all right, I got to figure that out. So Stryker, and then failed venture, Stryker. And then I got to a spot when I became a full line territory manager with EndoChoice that I was just going crazy, going all out. And my dad came alongside me and said, hey man, like, be excellent, go for excellence. But like, remember, your identity is not in achieving rookie of the year or rep of the year. Like, you're an Alwinson, you're God's kid. So live from your identity, not for your identity.
Yeah.
And for me, that was the phrase that changed my life. Is like, man, I don't have to what people will find is like, if you're going for rep of the year right now, you're going to find that like when you get rep of the year, it's empty, right? Like it's cool for a little while and you should still go for it. So don't let up, still go for it. But you are who you are. So live from your identity, not for your identity. And that's kind of what I would encourage your listeners is like, man, you're way more than just a number on a page. And what that does is it frees you up to sell authentically to your customers.
I love it.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a customized and personalized program that gets you into the medical technology industry as a sales professional or any type of role for that matter. Become a top performer in your position and masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolvesuccess.com by visiting our site, filling out an application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and allowing us to get you where you need to be. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews on the Medical Sales Podcast.